They wanted me to take a moment to say something funny about Dennis. But the thing is, he's such a nice guy, it's really hard for me to say something funny and make fun of him. But based on our conversation that we had here, I could see he's not really good at math because he couldn't figure out the joke that I told him, which is very simple. But you don't have to be a math major to be a good artist. So I guess I'm supposed to be making fun of him, but I'm complimenting him as a good artist. So I guess I failed in this aspect, but he's just too good and of a guy. I can't make fun of him.
It's a good when a good friend shows up, they bring rum.
That's right.
So,
Papa's Pilar, no doubt.
Grab this thing here. Papa's Pilar, my favorite rum in the whole wide world. It
is good.
I brought this to a friend's house the other night. About once a month, there's a friend in town here that about 4 or 5 guys will get together, play dominoes, hang out, you know what I mean, and smoke cigars. And, I play a little guitar, and so does he. So I'll sometimes grab the guitar and we'll bring over a different rum, right? If we've been doing this, probably was like the 3rd time in a row we did it. He had brought a rum for the first time. I had a bottle of Havana Club at the house already that I brought over last time. And it was like, oh, this is great. The history behind Havana Club and everything. And then for the next time, I'm like, well, I'm going to up the game. So I brought this, and he's like, oh, what is this? I said, this is the best rum you're ever going to have in your entire life. And he goes, really? I go, yeah. So we cracked it open, put a glass in a shot glass with 1 ice cube over it. And he drank it, and he went, you are so right. Mm-hmm. I said, yeah, it is. It's the best.
Oh,
for
it
sure.
is.
So, and you're on vacation, so I'm going to open this.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So, welcome to Connected by Water.
Oh, glad to be here. I remember you talking about it during the start and told me about it. So fantastic! It's great to see it off the ground.
Yeah. So I'm honored to have you. I mean, it's so cool that you're here for this. I mean, bringing together the community. That's what this show is all about. I mean, who more is a bigger part of the community than you? So there we go. Great to have you on. So we're celebrating today, too.
I was about to say, do you need an owner's manual show you how to open that thing up or what?
All right. So we got our glasses here. All right. We're just going to sip it today. Straight rum. Right?
Absolutely.
Spilt a little for good luck.
And,
there you go.
And here's to wishing the very best of luck with the new endeavor.
Thank you, sir. Likewise, you too.
Where's my cup?
Delicious. You want a cup?
No, you're the one who needs to be paying attention.
You're on the clock,
I gotta pay attention.
Ooh, it's good. So, we were talking just a minute ago about the boat shows. We're coming up on boat show season. Mm-hmm. Are you making any appearances?
Lauderdale, I show up usually either opening day or I'll be there Friday and Saturday, just free roaming. I'll hang a little around Mako booth for a little bit, but the ones where I really get locked into appearances on Miami show because I'll be at the Simrad booth on that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then from there I go to the Mako booth and do the T-shirt signings for those 3 days. Mm-hmm. So this is sort of, again, like a little mini vacation, a little boat show because I'm not constrained to be any particular booth for a set amount of time, walk around and see people in the industry and have time to talk with them and enjoy the show and enjoy catching up.
It's got to be a treat for you, though. I mean, because I know so much of your schedule is so tied to the have-tos and the obligations and stuff like that. So it's probably nice for you to be able to walk around casually.
Oh, it's a piece of cake and very enjoyable. You grab a buddy of yours and you do the whole show, and when it's over, before you go home, you go out and grab a bite somewhere and get up and do it one more day. And like I said, it's just an opportunity to get caught up because everybody or most everybody that you know within the industry will be at the show. Mm-hmm. And when you're able to get around, it gives you the opportunity to see everybody and have a quick visit and that. Whereas sometimes when you're at shows and you're locked into doing schedules and this and that, you don't really get that opportunity because of the time constraints on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's good. So we're going to make a little announcement today, though, right? Mm-hmm. Is it okay if we just jump right into that?
Go right into it.
So for years, you've been filming for over 20.
This year in January be our 20th anniversary on national television.
20th anniversary on national television. Congratulations.
And
that's
like
amazing.
I tell people, I started as a science fair project in 7th grade, and it got out of hand from there.
A science fair project.
Remember those things?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how did it start as a science fair project?
That was a joke. Meaning I'm not as
I'm
old.
like, really?
Meaning I'm not as old as I look. You had to be good in math. Get in 7th grade to now, 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, John, help him out over there, would you?
It's the rum. I'm telling you, it's the rum.
If you're in trouble with one
Already.
sip, I don't want to
Let me
see you when
take
you finish
the-
that glass.
I'm good.
And I thought I was bad in math, which I always was.
You called me on my heels. All right. You called me on my heels there. That's right. That's cool. I get it.
Yeah, but
So-
20-year anniversary.
20-year anniversary, and you are migrating this situation over to bigger and better things right now.
We go to the Discovery Channel with World of Saltwater Fishing come January. We air weekends, first and second quarters, which is really it's a big jump. And how that happened was we were on NBC Sports for 9 years, and then we got a call in April from the show person that was in charge of the outdoors. As George, you've been such a strong customer. You've been with us for 9 years. And so rather than send you an email like we're going to send to the other show hosts, we wanted to let you know, talking to you, that NBC is getting out of the outdoors effective January 2020, so we're not running any more outdoor shows. And she said, remember those rumors that would start up like every year that NBC was getting out of the outdoor game, and then you would call me and I would tell you that no, we're just as strong as ever going to be there. She says that we almost ended it 2 or 3 years earlier, but we decided to stay with the outdoors, but we're officially dropping outdoors. So I call up my show producers and said, well, guys, guess what? Either we're going to find a new home here, or we're going to have a lot of free time to fish without the cameras.
Yeah.
And through some associations that I had, we entered negotiations with the Discovery Channel. And about 2 weeks later, locked down a deal. And the funny thing about it, whereas with NBC Sports, where we thought, okay, man, we're leaving such a high-rated network.
Right.
And then where are you going to go? Because you want to keep your ratings up. And then all of a sudden, for them to tell you that they're out of the outdoors, and then you end up at the Discovery Channel, which is a much larger network ratings-wise. So
Right.
we came from being without a television show to one with a super huge market well over that of NBC Sports. So the ball took a bounce in our favor, and then we jumped on it.
That's phenomenal. I mean, it's not even just a national channel. It's a worldwide channel.
It's huge, and
Yeah.
it's the history of the show. We first started on ESPN2, and we had shot a pilot. And back then there was TNN, which is the Nashville network, and then you had ESPN, and those were the two majors running outdoor shows. So when we shot a pilot, and we decided, well, let's go ahead and send it to the Nashville network, TNN, and ESPN. 2 days later, we got a call from ESPN saying they liked the pilot. Somebody's dropping out of their 7 o'clock position. We'd like to talk to you about filling it. So we flew to Connecticut, and we left with a deal. We ran 10 years on ESPN2 until they decided they were pulling out of the outdoor fishing, hunting, outdoor-oriented shows. So then we got picked up by Versus, which was owned by NBC Sports, which became NBC Sports. We were there 9 years. Now we go to Discovery Channel. So the ongoing joke is, okay, let's see what network we're going to wear out now, because we're wearing them out.
Yeah, right. That's cool. If anyone can wear them out, it's you. You're wearing out all those fish all the time. I mean, God knows you have the endurance.
It's just a ton of fun, and it's passion. And I was telling John, he was asked how was our filming going for 2020. And we just shot our last show for 2020 last week, which is pretty much beginning of October. Our normal shooting schedule takes us from April until really pretty much into December. We're always trying to get that last television shoot in December. And we shoot 13 episodes. And this year I told the team, I said, you know what, let's just really hunker down and go for it. It's going to be a pain. But I said I would really like to end the season without having to drag on into December worrying about getting a show. I like to have like December somewhat off, where you could sit around and drink Papa's Pilar rum and eggnog and eat Christmas cookies and enjoy the spirit a little bit, rather than trying to run and get this last show in.
You know, there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, 'cause we say that all the time every year because December sneaks up on you quick, especially for doing what we do here as an art studio, because everyone always waits for the last minute to say, "Oh, I need this, I need this, I need this." They think that the gifts last minute, and art takes time to create, right? So we're always like right down to the wire. And I said to Liz, you know, this year I was like, you know what, we're not doing that again. Like, so I sent out a Facebook message early on and a bunch of emails to a bunch of people. Like, if anyone wants anything, I'm cutting it off. If you don't get your order in by the beginning of November, we're not doing it. You know, so and I think it's going to be.
But you'll
nice.
end up doing it.
I'll end up. I so will. That's the saddest part. I will. I can't resist. I got to work on that though. Like saying no. Like
that's my hardest problem too.
Yeah, I mean we had Troy and my buddy Matt Williams on recently on a podcast, and we talked about the power or like what do they call it? I mean, just people pleasing. Mm-hmm. You just no one wants to hear no, no one wants to hear no. But then you back yourself into a corner and be like, wow, I really got to do that, you know. And it's probably a lot easier in the beginning just to say no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But there's something that always just
they're like in your case and even the same in mine. Those are your customers. They're the ones who buy your art that look up to you and you know. You're in the business of taking care of your customers. Mm-hmm. You don't want to turn anybody away, and that's the positions we get ourselves into, and we just got to work our way through it.
Don't want to be anyone's bad experience, I guess, you know. But I don't know. Sometimes, but in the end of the day, sometimes it can do more harm than good. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself on that one. But no, that's really awesome though that you're going to be able to take the season off like that. It's going to be a nice treat for you.
It is. We ended our shooting schedule for 2020, like I said, last week. And in 20 years, we've never, ever ended this early. So now I don't know what to do with myself for next couple.
I was going to ask, what do you have planned now?
Come hang out at the studio here with Dennis.
Right? Go to the studio.
I mean, what else you have to do at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
That's it. Is it 2?
On what, a Tuesday?
Yeah, 2. It's it. 2 on Tuesday. We're drinking rum. That's I went to art school, so I got to tell people that all the time. You know, when we're talking about different aspects of the business, when like the business stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm the one who went to art school here, so you talk amongst yourselves and let me know what you come up with, and I'll just make it look good. So yeah, especially now that we've expanded. But, I don't know.
Place looking beautiful.
Thank you very much. It's definitely turned into something. I mean, we wanted like the mics and the technicality of it to be top notch, but as we started dressing up the room, it kind of started taking on a life of its own. In like the last couple of weeks when we were building out the room, so. We had the wrap donated to us by our good friend Wade at Image Graphics.
They let her my boats.
Yeah, he donated the wrap for us. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him that he did provide that to us. So I think that makes a good, nice touch in the room. So yeah, no, we're happy. It's cozy. It's home. You know, just like anything else that I do, it's got to be like full on. You know what I mean? So and you're like that too. So I want to talk to you about the evolution of your show. Mm-hmm. Because from where you've started to where you are now, right. I mean, this is really a nice moment for you with the whole discovery thing. But your show over time, take us through that, like when you first started and what your plans were, your ideas
how
were.
The whole show concept started. I had come aboard, and I still am with Saltwater Sportsman magazine. I came aboard with them in 1983, and I write tackle and tactics column. I would do that today. And then we started the Saltwater Sportsman National Seminar Series, which is the nation's largest and longest running seminar tour. We go to 8 cities across the country between January and March. And this January, the tour enters into its 33rd year. And I've been with them, from the very beginning. But how the show started, I think it might have been the 9th or 10th year with the seminar series. And I was figuring out my next career move. I would Saltwater Sportsman magazine, which was the big saltwater fishing magazine nationally. And then we have the seminar series. I've been still with that. And that was, running at that point 9 or 10 years. It's the nation's biggest seminar tour. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do next? And the thing that irked me, when you looked at the television fishing shows that were on back then, pretty much with maybe an exception or two, they were just goofballs. Mm-hmm. guys, how you doing, Sam? Great. Hey, that's a pretty beautiful one. It was like mind rot to sit there and look what they're doing. And to me, since saltwater fishing's in my blood, it was like an insult to our sport and to saltwater fishing in general to have these people in boats looking like a bunch of googans. And I think that's an embarrassment to our sport. So I said, I want to do a national TV show. And I said, I'm going to stick to the formulas that made our seminar series successful. And that is providing useful information that people could watch and pick up on, and also make it entertaining, but also somehow teach within it. So if you were going to do a dolphin episode, and say we shot the dolphin episode, for argument's sake, out of West Palm Beach. Well, somebody in North Carolina could watch it. Somebody off of Alabama could watch it that fish for dolphin. You know, they're not in Palm Beach, but they'll watch that show. And if we're doing a certain thing with dolphin, trolling, and they're going to look at the little subtleties that we're doing to catch dolphin on the troll, and they're going to think of how we could apply that when we go dolphin fishing off our water. So there's something that people could pick up. So I stuck with that hard-hitting educational formula from day one, and we shot a pilot show, and it got picked up by ESPN, and they said the same thing. We like the instructional value. We like the entertainment value. It wasn't just like you put them to sleep with instructions. You had everything just came together the way we intended it to. And there was no frills, no sideshows as other people out there, and I'm not going to mention any names, sort of do to try to get their hold in there. And this was a show and is a show dedicated to people in saltwater fishing with the passion, you know, and we stuck with that same formula, and it's been a winning formula all the way across the board. We never varied or anything. And, you know, ironically, our big break was the first time we ever aired was on ESPN. So it wasn't like we started with a lesser network, like a regional, and then got notice from there. We started right off with the big time. And fortunately, I had a lot of good sponsors that I've always known through my saltwater sportsman associations and the seminar series associations that, you know, were there to back you because they knew who you were and they knew the job that we were capable of doing. So you had their trust, and it was it gelled, and we're still doing it now.
Yeah, I think that's phenomenal. I mean, you know, just the mere fact that, let me go back a little bit to when I was in the 7th grade and I started first watching. No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to pay you
I think
back.
you were seated either in front or behind me, if I remember.
Yeah, right.
And they held you in summer school because you were bad at math, right?
That's very true. That is very true. No, but I mean, I think that what you're talking about in the format that you brought to the scene, I think really changed a lot about, you know, the fishing shows on TV and outdoor shows in general, I think. And your influence in that respect is being felt still today.
Oh, I would hope so.
No, I think so. No, I'm almost stating that as like fact. You know what I mean? And it is true. I mean, you have really changed the landscape of all that to where I think people would take notice and start mimicking that format. You know, and I think that really speaks to both your popularity and your legend today, in the fact that you were an innovator in that respect. And, you know, still people look at you as an extremely reliable source from that respect.
Well, I appreciate the nice comments, and it's going back to just portraying saltwater fishing as a, you know, as a not a Guggen sport. That's the key I'm trying to say here. You know, if you're going to represent something, you know, you give it, you know, the just rewards of what it is. And, you know, showcase it in the entertainment and the fun and the thrills. I mean, we're all addicts with fishing.
Yeah, for sure.
And as are a lot of people out there. So you just want to share this with everybody. And it's funny, being a, you know, competitive type of individual, as I'm sure you are too with other marine artists, is that, you know, you look at other shows as competition that's running in your league. And even though you're friendly with these people, there's still a competition. So, you know, you come out and do the best that you can. And then sometimes I'll look and say, you know, this show here, they don't really know what they're doing with saltwater because you could smell it out, but they use either gimmicks or twists or different kind of things, you know, to get that show through. You know, and then you look at that and you say, why would the network even run that? But then you need to sit down and think, okay, well, if the network thought likewise and they cut all these shows out, it would say you and maybe two others, they would shut you off. There'd be no competition, which means there'd be no outdoor fishing shows. So you need those others in your block because that's longevity. Without them, you don't have a race.
Right. I always say that too, because it's funny you bring up the parallel with other marine life artists, because I look at that too. And I bring other artists on this show because I have a network, like a circle of artists that I'm very good friends with. And there's no, there's a competition amongst those guys, but I think that competition is more healthy and we support each other. You know what I mean? We all know that we make ourselves better.
You push each other.
Yeah, for sure. To where, I saw, Pete do something good, this week. And, that makes me want to really do something good too. And we understand that about each other, and there's no hate, there's no animosity there. But we always say that strength in numbers, because if you look at marine life art in general, if there's just like one guy, right, then there's just one guy. And if there's a movement, that just benefits all of us.
There's no doubt. One guy would put people to sleep after a while, and that'd be it.
Yeah, and you'd be like, well, if there's only one guy who's cornered that market, then what's the point?
Exactly right.
Really. But if there's an influence of a movement behind it, then I think it's more meaningful.
But there's no doubt.
And I think you can feed off each other, and you can get ideas off each other, and you can gain off each other's momentum, as long as you keep the right perspective. You're not vindictive, and you're not trying to and some also too. If some people might be overly influenced, possibly by their sponsors, to where they say, "Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that," and they don't have the wherewithal or the authority to make their own calls, or they're just being pushed along, they're being puppeted along. Whereas you, basically, this is your baby. This is your work of art. The 20 seasons of shows that you've done and everything like that. So that's very commendable too. But
and with the sponsors and what you're just saying is, we fish, we talk about techniques, tactics, and we actually show those sponsor products in use. Penn sees the outfits we're using, Rapala and Suffix, the lines, Simrad Electronics. All this is being used in the actual fishing situation, and people notice that. It's not like all of a sudden take a minute out. This brand new Penn reel is so spectacular, we couldn't live on it. You're not being a NASCAR person sitting there just because people get tired of that. We blend it into our shows. They see us actually being used. So it's portrayed in an educational type fashion, and I think in a classy fashion, and and I'm a stock car fan too, so all the stock car guys don't get mad at me in a non-NASCAR fashion. Right. If you understand that.
For sure.
Because we're showing it being used. And people say, hey, they're doing this, look at that. I mean, that reel landed a 55-pound grouper. I fish a striped bass. I'm sold on that because that thing will last me for 5 years. If that guy caught that big grouper on that, you show them this stuff. And now that you got me all wound up, is the other thing.
That's my job. That's my job on this show,
about
George.
the shows
trying to get you wound up.
Well, we do two things. Every fish you have ever seen caught by my guest angler or myself on my show, we did it. Unlike some other shows, and I'm not mentioning names, we don't have camera boats fishing, people fishing out there in different boats, passing to the rods to get the show in. We don't pen fish up as some inshore freshwater types may do, where they could go out in a half a day and say, Dennis, you're my buddy. You fish X amount of bass tournaments over here. Let's do a show at the area. Give me 3 hours or half a day, but make sure your boat's the camera boat. Pen some bass up, put them in your live well, and they cut away to hookups. I mean, a lot of this does happen. And we're out there. Everything you see on our show was caught by myself or my guest angler. No fakes, no frauds, nothing like that. And our show, we still do it the old school way, in that we were taught this by ESPN. We're a minimum of a 2-camera shoot, a wide and a tight angle. Then we have an underwater and a drone operator. So that's 3 camera people. And we set aside 5 days to get a show. We have a travel day coming and going.
5 days, wow.
And 3 actual days on site. And the reason we do that, because you have so much budgeted time and expenses that if you show up and it's blowing 30 knots on day 1, Well, day 2 it might drop, or day 3 it might drop. So within a 3-day window, you're going to have an opportunity, hopefully, to get out and get that show, rather than just budget one day and then you've lost it. And so it's 5 days devoted each show, travel day both ends, 3 days actual shooting. And there's been times we've gone out in the first half a day and ended up with more fish than you could even possibly put in the show, but we'll still fish, put the diver down, and do technical stuff, do some on-land stuff. We still work that formula. And so we're still with the old school with that whole time frame too.
Has that ever backfired on you? Where
As far as
that 5-day window being just so horrible.
Oh, yeah. And we've had a couple of those. We had one.
We're not having a show this week.
We had one. This goes way back. And normally, when we get decent weather, we'll catch something. We'll scare something up. But against my better judgment, we decided to do a show in the Abacos during August. And I took a buddy of mine and said, let's go over there. We'll spend 6 days. We'll get 2 shows, a reef show, and then we'll scare something up offshore. And the Abacos, that's in March, April, May, June. And then after that, things really get sparse in the offshore world. But we decided, we were getting a little cocky. We could do something there. I go over, my buddy had 5 beautiful days of weather. Camera boat, everything. We trolled, we ran, we put the radar on looking for birds. Not one single offshore fish, not even a barracuda. So he said, let's drop on the reefs. We'll get some yellowtail and bail out one show. Not the first yellowtail to be caught. It was such a bad, every spot we hit, we chummed heavily. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just hit all the spots we had and not a single thing worked. So we spent 5-6 days in the Bahamas, came away with 0. And you still have the same amount of shows you have to do. So now you look at your schedule and you've got to squeeze another show or 2 in between the schedule that you have. But there's been, fortunately, not that many, but weather's always been our biggest issue to deal with.
Yeah, because, we're all anglers in this room, and so we all know that, like, no matter how good you are, and you're obviously the best among us here, no matter how good you are, you're still going to have days that just the fish are just not biting. With all your knowledge you have, it's just not happening today. And sometimes even if you think you got the conditions dialed in, God has other plans for you. So
it is, and it's challenging. You got to change things up. And then the other limiting factor is that you're limited by the seas that your production team can shoot in. Whereas if it's really, if it's blowing 15, 20 knots, you and I, we hunker down, foul weather gear, we go fish. Yeah. But they can't shoot in that because of the cameras and the camera boats trying to get near you and this and that. So a lot of times when it's 15 knots, we have to have like a little powwow because you're shooting it. If we do get hooked up, we have to turn the boats down sea to make it comfortable for them. And at times, fortunately now, I have a Mako 33 now, when it's really blowing hard, we'll forego the camera boat, and I'll put the production team guys in my boat and say, guys, you're going to hunker down, and we're going to shoot it from in the boat, which makes it a little bit easier, all tight.
Yeah, yeah, wow.
So there's a lot of factors, not just you go out there with the cameras and it all comes together. There's a lot of logistics and things that, people don't realize or see.
Yeah, because weather is always, obviously, the biggest indicator of how your day is going to go. So
no doubt.
But you had some pretty good weather. What was it just last week? You were down for fishing for bonefish.
Yeah.
Less offshore, so that's a little bit less of a weather intensive moment.
To a certain degree.
Which I always love. I always love fishing for a bonefish. That's really kind of like my favorite type. Maybe it's my favorite. I always say this, but maybe I think I just realized this in my head. Maybe it's my favorite type of fishing because I don't get to do it as often as I do, other type of fishing. Not that this year has been a great fishing year for me, but I always love the novelty of the hunt because it really is a lot like hunting to me. Just got to be real quiet, and you know what I mean. And you just got to just make sure you're really kind of like sight fishing and everything there. So, can you take me through some of that bonefish?
And I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at what you just said.
You can laugh at me though. Everyone does. It's cool.
And you portrayed it as such, like bone fishing, the quietness, the stalk, the stealthness of it all. Now we did it a little differently because my small Mako, it doesn't have a polling platform. So we
taking the LTS out for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
We chummed them. We got into a spot, about 2 feet of water, and broke up some live shrimp, threw them out, and then you would see them come in, and then you'd pitch. So you would think that, you have to be really quiet, like you just said, And anyway, I hook a bonnethead shark. We had put a camera, an underwater camera, down in that white sand hole to see the chunks of the shrimp coming down and the fish coming in underwater. I hook a bonnethead shark. I'm fighting this bonnethead shark, and it's running past where the camera was. And we finally get that in there. I'm thinking this thing's going to scare all the bonefish out, so we release it. So 40 minutes later, to take the camera back out, reviewing the film, taking that clip out, put another one in. And one of the guys was laughing. You want to see something here? Here's your skittery bonefish. He shows me the hook bonnethead going around that camera as it's floundering past the camera. Here comes a bonefish just eating behind it. So here's a fish struggling in trouble, and yet a bonefish is right on its tail just eating the shrimp at the bottom like nothing ever happened.
I wouldn't think that at all. I think those things are so skittish, like scaredy cats. I think, they spook so easy.
Yeah, we end up getting like 7 of them in that method. And but the good thing was, if it's blowing, you could get on a leaving island. It's nice and calm there, and you could usually get that one in.
Yeah, I love it. Every time I would go over to Marsh Harbor, because I would do a lot of the artwork for Skip's tournaments over there, he would always say, like, oh, you want me to get you on a marlin boat? And I would always say no, because those teams are all set.
Yeah.
So I'd just be like going on a boat ride. So I'd rather fish while I'm over here. So I would always go to the other side of the island and go bone fishing. So to me, it's just a spiritual moment for me.
It is. And the amazing life forms that show up in 2 feet of water, they're pretty incredible.
Yeah. No, yeah. When you see that little wolf pack come around like the corner of a mangrove patch and you see those little shadows just coming, it's beautiful.
It is.
It's beautiful. So you have probably caught every species of saltwater fish, I think, like out there for the most part, right?
Yes. And when it comes, my heart's in the offshore fishing. That's what I do. I do the inshore stuff. I grew up doing sea trout and snook and tarpon in North Biscayne Bay when I grew up in Miami, and then moved to the offshore stuff. But that's always my heart, the offshore. So that's what I do most of. And I have caught in every billfish species in the world, with the exception of the spearfish. And I didn't set any particular time, like I'm going to get them all within 1 year. Between my travels with Saltwater Sportsman magazine, what we do with the shows, I would set up some either feature stories or shows in these areas and pick it off. Okay, check off black marlin on your list, check off striped marlin. And the one that I'm waiting to get a hold of is a spearfish, which, infrequently will show up maybe 1 or 2 off our coast a year being caught. So people say, go to Hawaii. There's this place.
You probably got to do a car
and it's
trip.
never really interested me to do that. Maybe I might, but I said, I think it would be so cool to do that in your own waters. And ironically, going back to the early 80s, I had a buddy of mine out in my boat. We were at a haulover. And I got him his first sailfish. And then all of a sudden we're trolling. And I had a swimming mullet on a flat line. And here comes what I look like, a white marlin. So I said, get him. Here's your white now. We're going to get you a white marlin. So he dropped back and he missed it. And it bring that bait up, brings it up. Fish comes in again. He drops it. He hooks it. So I'm great. Got his white marlin. I grabbed him. Look at the spearfish. And if I known that, he would have gone overboard. So we got one on my boat, but I didn't catch it.
Yeah, you should have grabbed the rod from him.
If I'd known, but what are you going to do?
That's funny.
But that's the only, billfish I need to knock out. But a lot of the other species, we've covered a.
Yeah, Hawaii's the spot for that.
Yes,
fish,
what I hear. You go out
Yeah.
there and you can knock them off, and pretty easily too.
Yeah, I have a buddy of mine, Randy Strauss, that did that recently, where he was just hell bent on getting it, and I think it was about a year and a half ago. He went out there and he got it.
Yep, and so I might do that yet, but I'm gonna, I'm still holding out the old home waters here.
I see that about you, where you'd rather catch it here than have to chase it.
Sure. Because if you get it out here, it's going to be just that much more impressive and special than.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now you fish all up and down the coast. I know you go to Venice, Louisiana a lot as well. So you go basically like once a year, you go in there more than that?
We alternate. The show's national. So in the 20 years of doing the show, we've hit every state saltwater side, from beginning with shows in Maine all the way down, all the way through Texas. The only area that I've not gone to yet for shows California, but we've been to Alaska. And
you have been to Alaska?
Yeah, we've done 1 or 2 episodes out of there before too.
Oh man, I must have missed those.
Deep jigging for the halibut, the saltwater side of life.
Cool.
Which is pretty cool. So we've done
How'd you like fishing in Alaska?
I liked it. I really liked it because the halibut, I wanted to do like the South Florida deep jigging style, where you had a little small deep jigging reel and a bucktail with the worm on it and dropping down. And we were catching them with the small reels, and they're saying, well, you need these big 4-pound weights and heavy rods. I said, let me try, this. And we ended up doing a good show. I think my big was a 68-pounder caught on a bait caster with
You're kidding me.
A jig and a worm. Which
On a
I
bait
thought was
caster?
cool. Yeah.
On a bass
It's
rod?
Florida style.
Wow.
Yeah.
68-pound fish?
So, yep. And then we got a 37-pound lingcod, which is had to be one of the most ugliest fish around. You ever see a lingcod? Mm-hmm. That with Halloween coming up, that'd be a great costume.
A lingcod?
A lingcod. Look
All right,
that
so
thing up.
you just challenged me as a marine life artist. You're
I don't think you can sell many lingcod prints, but you never know.
No. I got to check that one out for sure.
But yeah, I've enjoyed them, and the reason why I've not done shows in California, I've done saltwater sportsman features out there before, but I just think because you have to hit that right when that warm water comes up,
Yeah.
and you have the fish there, and I think just from the headache standpoint of traveling at a distance to do it for what they have to offer, unless it's red hot, there's so many other better spots that you could.
It's a different
catch fish.
scene
Yeah.
out there. I think people don't realize what we have here.
Oh, yeah.
I know we've discussed this before about Venice, saying like Venice is probably the best fishery
Yeah.
in the continental United
Yep.
States. But that's, Florida itself too is still
Oh, yeah.
phenomenal. I
It's-
don't think people realize what an amazing fishery. We were real
It's
spoiled.
we
you know what I
are.
mean, with what we have here. But if you go to other places, I mean, it's not a bite like this. Now, I know we can go to Costa Rica and catch 50 sailfish in a day and like that kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. But as far as like a balance
Mm-hmm.
of and variety and
There's
diversity,
so much that
yeah,
you can catch here.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and I tried. I mean, we talked about. I tried to portray that on the bridge, where it's like there's such diversity within our marine ecosystem that it's really you look at places like California and you would think, oh, it's Pacific and you got all these dolphin and these sea otters and like all the or not sea otters, but what do you call walruses? What do they have over there? Those things you see. The seals.
Yep.
It's the rum talking. So, but you're not getting the type of fishing pound for pound that you are here.
No, you're not, and we're just so diverse. And then you look at what we have here. Not only you have the fisheries here, but you had the Florida Keys right below you, and you have the Bahamas right across from it. You were in the spot to hit anything. Then, if you wanted to do, like you said, a South American or Central American trip, you're an hour and a half, 2 hour plane ride from Miami down to one of these spots. So you're within striking distance. And if you love freshwater, look at the great canals you have here in Broward alone, let alone driving up to Lake Okeechobee, or you've
Plus
got
all the
everything
exotics
here.
that are here that people travel to South America and stuff for.
Sure.
And
Right in
catch
our own
their
neighborhood right here.
Well, I mean, we're living in the saltwater
Yeah.
Mecca, and that's why people ask me, if you had to leave South Florida, where would you go? And I said, I'm not.
Exactly.
The only time I'm leaving South Florida is when I check out and leave the building. I mean, that's going to be the end of me, because you have everything here.
That makes two of us for
I know,
sure.
right?
Yeah, I mean that's the God's honest truth. I talk about it all the time. People say, "What would you do? What would you do if you won a lottery?" And I'm like, "Well, I'd probably still paint fish, and maybe I'd buy a bigger house around here." You know what I mean? But that's why would you want to be anywhere else?
Arguably, we're in the best area. But I will throw one out there that, unless you're from the Northeast, which I'm not, born and raised in Miami, but unless you are down here from the Northeast, you would know this, but a lot of people don't. We talk about great fishing areas. New Jersey would blow your mind, the incredible fishing
that
they
is
have
true.
there.
Yeah, and the Montauk area and all that. Yeah,
The attitude of the people who fish Jersey. We do seminars every year. I've done a number of shows out of Jersey. They're as crazed as South Florida saltwater anglers. There is unbelievable how strong of a contingent they are between the inshore, the canyon folks up there. That is a huge, huge, huge saltwater
that
market.
is true.
And I think a lot of our manufacturers, they pump Florida because it's a big area. But, I mean, Jersey's incredible. But
That's
it's a
true.
wild
That's
area,
true.
and the fishing's phenomenal. I've experienced it up there.
Yeah, my whole family is from New Jersey originally. I was born and raised here. I'm the youngest of 6. I was
Okay.
the only one born. I call themselves. I always tell them I'm the lucky one.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to be born here. And my wife is from New Jersey as well. And her father still lives. Her parents still live up there. Her father is a scout dealer up in New Jersey. But yeah, no, we have a big following up there, and we had a huge customer base, like the D.Friel area, and even
Sure.
like down to Ocean City, and that whole back and forth between those two areas right there. Yeah, it is pretty fanatical.
It is no doubt.
How they get into that.
No doubt.
So you talk about your seminars, though. How often are you doing those?
We do those every year between January and March, and we do 8 across the country. We rotate the cities to give the readership of Saltwater Sportsman an opportunity to see the tour. And what it is, it's a one-day saltwater fishing seminar geared to the region which it's being held. And when we travel, it's a Saturday from 9 to 3, we have what we call our touring national faculty members, and then we're paired up with probably 8 or so regional faculty members. So it's a one-day seminar geared inshore, nearshore, offshore, on tricks, techniques, and tactics of how to catch the key game fish within that area. And it's the largest and most popular seminar of its kind, and the oldest running or longest running. This January is going to be year 33 for the tour. And
Wow.
and it's like, so that's another reason we get our shows done by December, because not only do we air it at January through June, but the weekends between January and the beginning of March, I'm on the road with the seminar series, and there doesn't leave you time to do anything else but go on that, and really amazing, and the opportunity to work with so many good regional pros in those areas, and you learn so much. You're a faculty member, but you learn a lot about the local type of fishing and the subtleties they're doing to catch the same type species we target here. So a lot of cases when you're fishing here and your primary method isn't really doing it, you think about that a lot. Well, let's do some adjustments and try something different that you've heard. And in a lot of cases it works, but it's a fun deal. And then we always hold one in Jersey, and the large
Where in New Jersey?
Atlantic City.
Oh yeah.
And there's a funny story behind it. I guess it was 2011, maybe 2001. I mean, 33 years they blend together. And our strong seminars, turnout-wise, it's always between South Florida, North Carolina, and New Jersey. Now, New Jersey had set our all-time attendance record. This was, I want to say 2001. We were at the Trump's Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, and we sold out 600. We sold 600 tickets 3 weeks before we came to town. So I call the person at the hall and said, "Hey, could we get more seats?" And he says, "Yeah, how many you want?" And I said, "Put 200 more in." So he did. A week later, we sold those out. So I called him, "Could you get any more?"
How far in advance to the event is this?
Now we're coming in about 2 weeks prior.
Okay.
So long story short, he says, "I got the place maxed out at 1,000. We sold that before we came to town. So we said it was sold out, but we still had walk-ups. People lined up that morning to buy tickets. So we said, the seats are taken. You're going to have to stand in the back of the grand ballroom. So they were doing it. The fire marshal comes in and cuts us off. He said, "You're beyond the number of people could have in here." So we set the record in Jersey. It was 1,150 people were in that theater.
For a fishing seminar. That's great.
When it was done, the guy who runs the ballroom came up to me and said, "When you first booked this hall and you said you're going to put 600 fishing people in, I thought you were crazy. Then you called me and said you need some extra seats. And then you tell me you need more. I'm going, what's going on here?" Then I saw what you put. He said, "I've been at this theater for 15 years. He said, "The only one who's ever sold the ballroom out in the history of me being at this theater or ballroom, it was Alice Cooper on a New Year's Eve show."
I was going to say Bruce Springsteen. I was trying to
Alice
John Bon
Cooper.
Jovi. I was trying to think some
and
Jersey
he said
guys.
they had Jethro Tull come in,
Yeah.
and he only sold 600 tickets.
Really?
So, I mean, of course, this is the old beat-up Jethro Tull. It's not when he was packing football stadiums. This was, a comeback
Well,
Jethro
this is
Tull.
what, 2001?
2001.
I saw Jethro Tull in 1992.
Yeah.
or maybe 91 at the James L. Knight Center.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and-
we beat him. That's
Yeah,
our
that's
slogan. They said, hey, we tied Alice Cooper and beat Jethro Tull with the seminar series.
nice.
But
awesome.
that goes back to the Jersey craziness up there. They're devoted big time.
Yeah, no, that is true. I mean, it's the most densely populated state.
It's crazy.
I think
Yeah.
in the country, and it's true. I mean, we go up there all the time to go visit the in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they do love their fishing. They do love their
Yep.
outdoors, and we hear it all the time. No, that's great. What's it's the Hard Rock now? Is the Trump Hotel? Right, I think.
Yeah, no, it is.
Did the Hard Rock take that over now?
Yes, it is. You're
Right?
correct. Yes.
I think it's like their second year.
No,
or
no,
something.
no. It's not the Hard Rock. The Trump, it was taken over by, it's a chain. They also have one in Biloxi, Mississippi, which we've been to before at the same place.
The Harrah's.
No? It'll come to my mind here.
All right. Yeah. The so the seminar series, you're still keeping that going on.
Yeah.
Is that primarily just like a coast thing? Because I think that's really cool. What you do with that is including like the local captains and stuff. Wasn't Ben a part of that too?
Ben Sharp?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He did, I know, Port St. Lucie.
Okay.
And I've tried to get him to be part of our Alamorada one, but always conflicts with the tournament that he runs.
Right. With the dust them off. Yeah.
Yes, with
Yeah.
the decimal. And
Yeah.
speaking of Ben Sharp,
Ben's a good dude.
we got our ratings in after our airings finished on NBC Sports. Out of the episodes that we've done, the episode I did with Ben was NBC's top rated episode in our saltwater block.
Really?
I called Ben up when I got the ratings and said, guess what, Ben?
Oh man, that's so cool. Yeah, he's a hard worker, man. He's a really good guy.
Great,
Love him.
knowledgeable
Yeah.
offshore fishing person. Very.
And Navy veteran.
Yep, absolute Navy veteran too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool.
And just a fun guy to have on the boat.
So when you're recording this last season, is this last season that you just got done recording? Is that now the Discovery season?
Yes, when we started shooting in April, and the one episode we finished last week was episode 13. This starts up in January for the Discovery Channel, and then we air them through June, and they run the regular 13, then they repeat the 13.
Yeah.
And then come April, we'll get back to work for 2021.
That's great. I mean, for someone who's born and raised South Florida, born and raised in Miami, to build what you've built by fishing, that's to say a dream come true, I think is obvious, but this has got to be ultimately like extremely fulfilling for you to have lived a life on the water, in you're a family man, and you've been able to provide for that family, through doing all this. I mean, it's got to make you feel good.
It does. And, I'd love to sit here and just, I will tell you how great I am because I did this. But it's funny, in a lot of things in life, it's how things take weird turns and all that. And I'll give you an example. My dad, who got me into fishing, he was a big fishing guy. He was a dentist, Bay Harbor Islands. And that's in Miami Beach. So a lot of times he'd take me to the seawall, Biscayne Bay, a little plastic outfit, catching these little tiny snapper grunts, and it was in my blood. And he loved the fish. He had a 23-foot Scotty craft, loved to go to the Marquesas Islands off of Key West or west of Key West to bottom fish. That was his thing. He'd love it. He wanted muttons, groupers, and and we grew up doing that. So when it was time, I guess I was like 16, and I started, he was getting out of fishing. He bought a bass bay boat kind of a deal, tri-hull. It was a Thunderbird. And I started, I grew up fishing with him in Biscayne Bay, so I'd take my buddies out at my driver's license. We catch trout, snook, tarpon, but the love was offshore. So he always told me a cardinal rule, never, ever, ever go offshore. Of course, we never listened to him on those calm days. Buddy and I, we'd run out. We bottom fish, and one day we crushed the groupers and snappers. When we come back in, I'm cleaning fish in the driveway, he pulls up. And he goes, where'd you get those groupers and snappers? And one of his favorite spots he would take me with the boat was under the Bay Harbor Bridge. We had a certain piling we'd anchor, and we'd fish, catch some small snappers. And I told him that. And he said, you went offshore? I said, no, they really bit. So I got away with it. I heard him tell my uncle.
Did your nose grew a little bit?
It had to grow a lot.
Yeah.
So he went out with my uncle and got this big drum and all that and said it was really good. So the next time we had gone out, we went dolphin fishing. And We crushed a dolphin, and sure enough, darn it, he comes home early from work that day. We're cleaning fish, and I tried to tell him the bridge deal in the bay. That was it for me. So he figured his son's going to
mahi ran up.
Yeah, no, didn't buy that one. So I got grounded, and he figured my son's going to die out here if he's going to do this offshore. We got to get him a decent boat. So he was good friends with Bob Hughes, and I became friends with Bob Hughes, the legend with Hughes Bone Fishery. Bob lived a few miles away from me. So he says, I'm going to talk to Bob Hughes and get an aquasport, because he was an aquasport dealer. And at the time, I'm reading Florida Sportsman magazine, Saltwater Sportsman. I see these ads for Mako. And I said, Dad, let's get a Mako. Let's look at Makos.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. How did you get kind of involved? This is
how my career started, with being a crazy twist. And he says, no, Bob Hughes is a dealer. He doesn't deal with Makos. Plus, Bob gives me good deals. And I argued with my dad, and he was going to get an aquasport. His dad, look at these Makos, and something about the Mako ads and the Mako boat and that lifestyle that they portrayed. They're portraying hardcore fishing type boats. And I insisted, so I finally wore him out to take a look at a Mako at Fisherman's Paradise. And he liked it. It was a 23, so he spoke to Bob Hughes. Bob said, I know Warren owns Fisherman's. We'll work a deal. We'll go to the Mako route. So we got the Mako. So we had the 23-footer for 2 years. Then he did the 25. Then I started fishing the Mako owner tournaments, the original ones back then. And they had the greatest thing going, because not only did they do the tournaments, but did an outdoor riders tournament each year. And back then, those tournaments were not like they are today. Today, they call them funaments. Mm-hmm. Back then, they were fun, but you had a nucleus of anglers that fished at hardcore, including us. I fished it 6 years, won the Angler of the Year title 4 of the 6 years, and we used to trailer Canaveral, Palm Beach, Destin. We did them all, the Keys. My senior year of college, Bill Monroe asked me, who was the marketing director, could you take your boat over to Walker's Cay? We're having a Mako Outdoor Riders Tournament. They do it every year. They take 10 of the top fishing riders. We'll pay your expenses, help us fish some of these guys. And that was like a dream come true. So on that trip, I fished Frank Sargent with Outdoor Life at the time, met Barry Gibson, Rip Cunningham with Saltwater Sportsman. Frank Sargent knew at the time I did a lot of sail fishing at Palm Beach. He says, why don't you write an article for Outdoor Life on sail fishing? He says, Frank, I don't even know if I could spell my name, let alone write. He said, put something together. If it's good, we'll run it, polish it up. If not, we'll let you know. So the first story I ever sold went to Outdoor Life magazine, which was one of the top paying magazines. I got a check for $300. I thought I was going to retire. So Barry Gibson asked me from Saltwater to do a kingfish story, which I did. Long story short, about a year later, Barry Gibson calls me up. We have a position open up in Saltwater Sportsman. Would you be interested? They flew me to Boston, which was the headquarters. And that was 1983. I came aboard Saltwater as a staff editor, and the rest got to where I am now. Now, had my dad really been insistent on not getting a Mako and bought an aquasport, I wouldn't be sitting with you guys today. So you talk
Probably
about the
not.
weird twists and turns in life.
Yep.
That's odd.
That speaks to the kind of boat and the boat company that Mako is too. I've always loved
And
the
my
Mako
ability
boat.
to help my dad into getting one. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a company that's always been on the forefront of offshore sport fishing at its core.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No doubt. But like I said, life has these twists and turns and breaks, and a lot of who you meet and who you know, and used to hear your elders tell you, always work hard, always you be honest, and this and that, and to the point where it's like redundant. Mm-hmm. And as you get older, and then you see like the successes or whatever you've had, they were right, because people trust you because you tell them you're going to do something, you're going to do it. And they know the work you're capable of. And they know, well, if George says he's going to do this, he's not going to shaft us and do something different. They trust you. And that's, if I could pass something on to the younger generation, be honest, person of your word, you work harder than the next guy, and, you put out a good product.
So valuable.
It is. And it is basic. Yeah. It's so basic, I think a lot of people don't really realize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true. I mean, it's so valuable. I mean, I don't think anybody looks at you and thinks the latter of what you just said, and because everyone knows when you tie the George Poveromo name to something, it embodies everything that you just discussed. And there's it's so valuable.
Yep.
Right.
There's no doubt.
But not only just like from a business standpoint, but intrinsically, like within yourself, like the life that you're living. You know what I mean? If you want to live a good, honest life, it just feels good. You know what I mean? It's just very valuable to just be that person. You know, and like you said, to the next generation coming up, there's a lot of things that are trying to change that or trying to divert that mindset or that way of life. And I really think that an influence like that or a comment like that goes a long way, because, you know, kids growing up now need to see that and understand that. Listen, I know there's a lot of distractions out there. Like this morning, you know, our kids woke up before us, and we woke up, came on the couch. My daughter has my wife's phone, and my son has my phone, and they're both playing the games on the phone. I'm like, wait a minute, time out. What's going on here? You know what I mean? How did this happen, and why do you think that this is okay? You know, but, you know, instilling the values in them, you know, and that's just one example. You know, I think that there's a huge value to that in the world and just the way things are moving. You know, I'm probably getting long-winded about that, but
no, you're right. Yeah. And there's one more thing that I think that the youth or kids come up today, what they need to realize based on what I said there's no quick super success story. You know, it's something you work at. They get frustrated. Well, I'm working here making $8 an hour, but they lose sight of, well, you're working towards a future goal. The place you're working now, part-time or whatever, full-time, for $8 an hour, you might meet people that give you a better contact or move you somewhere else. You got to stick with it. You know, success is not overnight unless you got a super wealthy father who kicks the bucket and then you get the inheritance the good old-fashioned way. I mean, you build on it. And sometimes it takes 10, 15 years. It's a long process, but if you stick it out and you push it, you know, and you work hard, and you'll get
stick
there.
To your guns.
But it's not an instant cure.
No.
And I think a lot in our society,
it's a
everything's
habit
so
thing.
fast.
Yeah, it's like a habit thing, or, you know, where you got to stick to these discipline, these core principles of your life. Yeah, and make that your habit.
People ask me, I get a lot of emails and kids talking to me, you know, I want to do what you do. What advice could you give me? I want to get involved in the marine industry and this. And I'll ask them how old they are and what they're doing. And the first thing I tell them, I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, if you're at the point now where you're looking to go to college, I said, you go to college, you get a degree, you figure out what you want to be in college, whether it's a business person or whatever, and you do that. And then once you get that degree, then if you want to go play around in the marine industry, whatever, you do it. Because I tell them, I said, you love it now because it looks great from the outside looking in, but unless you were so enamored by it, it's your blood, the amount of work in our industry will burn them out and they'll leave. Then they said, oh, I got to go fishing again today. But I said, you could always fall back on that degree or whatever it is that you have once you play here. And I said, it's always, in my opinion, better to have a good paying job, whether it's a trade that you learn and you don't go to college, or whether you go to college, you get a degree, have a good paying job and have the means to enjoy our sport in a good fashion, where you have the means to buy good reels, means to buy a good outboard motor or boat, and then fish it as a hobby. You'll never, ever, ever grow tired of it, and you would enjoy that immensely versus being thrown into that and having to work. And they look at me like, really? I'm trying to get out of school to do what you're doing. But I said, no, you need to go the other way around.
That's an interesting perspective to hear from someone making a living in the industry.
And I was lucky.
But I can relate because I'm in the industry too.
And I'm lucky you're lucky.
Yeah.
What are the odds of people doing what you do? You know, for every Dennis Friel out there, there's going to be thousands that don't get there.
That's very correct. I mean, extremely fortunate to be in the position that we're in right now, because the percentile of success is very low in doing what you and I do. We just recently had a guest on that has a law degree, and, you know, to be an influencer in the industry, for what he's trying to do and the causes that he's trying to achieve, would be a lot less difficult to do if he weren't educated and would have a better understanding of the law. So that's also where that degree can help you within this industry. But also we have Amanda and Emily, the Gale Force twins, that you know, they're on our team here at the studio. But, you know, they went to the University of Miami. They both have degrees in microbiology. They're twins, you know what I mean? But they don't want to do that. They want to try this, you know, charter fishing captain. They're both certified captains.
Yep.
But they're in a better spot to try that because they have that degree
Sure.
behind them.
And they got a
It's a
backup.
lot more of a secure
Absolutely.
venture for them if they didn't have that.
They're young. They've got the time to gamble out there.
Right.
If it works, wonderful. Hey,
Yeah.
if not, they got a backup.
Yeah, and I think they will work. There's no doubt about it because they're real hard workers and they embody the principles that we discussed before. But for some reason, you know what I mean, God forbid that it doesn't,
Right.
they're going to have a foundation to fall back
Sure.
on. Very important to be secure in your decisions in life. I mean, yeah, for sure. You know, I often think, you know, what a weird industry that we're in.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a God. You know, if you want to put
There's
your
nothing
thumb on-
like it.
There's nothing like it. I mean,
And I think that's why we
the
stay in
risk,
it.
the reward. I mean, it's phenomenal. But it's and like the crazy, strange people that you meet along the way. I mean,
Bizarre.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any other industry. Yes, other industry, you probably had some oddballs, but we take the cake. There's some characters in this that
no doubt about it.
if you were to write a fiction story and put them in, they would say that's what it is fiction. They wouldn't even believe it's true.
Right. No doubt about it at all. I mean, I came from, all right. So, I mean, not talking about myself, but just to give context, I started painting fish at a very young age, right? And, you know, I had some early success, but I decided to go to art school, came out and got a job. I worked actually at that same job for 17 years, right? It was in the music business, and I was a creative director by the time it was all said and done. I ran the department of like 20 people. But I got a real good hard knocks education on the corporate world, right? And I always knew that we'd run our own thing one day, and you know, thank God I have a wife that's fully supportive and the family that's completely supportive of everything that we did. We, you know, long story short, we quit the day job, we started the business. I never stopped painting fish. I always painted fish, but I always knew that I wanted to do it full time. But having that perspective of what life was like in the corporate world compared to what it is like fending for yourself in the marine industry is such a opposite, you know, thing. Now, there's obviously you're running your own business. I'm a businessman. I'm a business owner. And there's parallels there, but it's very small, you know, because the corporate world is very safe, very secure, but you can't, you know, make your own way kind of thing. You're stuck in that in that business model, someone else's business model. But this industry is just, you know, some of they're shysters. People want to kind of take advantage of you all the time. We're getting it nonstop. Now I'm at the point where it's just like I can spot them a mile away. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing business together. You know, no, you keep your money. We're good.
Yep.
But you know, but it's also been the most rewarding industry because there's so much passion involved in fishing. There's so much passion involved in building a life on the water or around the water or around the idea of saltwater living. And that's what this whole show is all about, you know, bringing that community
And
together.
a lot of really great people too.
Yeah, a lot of really
this
great
industry.
people.
Very.
Yeah, I don't want to say that this is just an industry filled with pirates and wenches.
But we have those.
we have those for sure. But there are a lot of really great people like yourself. And we try to bring these people on the show to put a spotlight on those, that there are really good people in this industry making their own way and being influencers within the industry that are basically giving it an identity.
Sure.
You are certainly one of those people, but you're on the forefront of that. You know, before social media evolved to what it is today, you were bringing that to the masses, you know, already, which is pretty significant in my mind. I mean, that's another reason why we're honored to have you on the show.
All in a day's
I
work,
mean,
and
you know,
that's what I do. I just, just love doing it. And, you know, whether you write an article for Saltwater Sportsman and, it gives you an opportunity to relive a trip that you're writing about. So you really do that trip 2 times when you're writing it and in the shows, and, you know, it's just what you do. And like I said, even though we finished early, I'm already itching to get out that boat, get going again. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
I need to be out there.
Yeah. Yeah. You get addicted to it.
You do.
I always, you know what? I always parallel or compare like fishing with art. I think fishing is an art, first of all.
It is.
Onto its own. But I see, because I do both, I see a lot of parallels between the two. And one of those is, that addiction you get to it because you think you work so hard and you burn yourself out that you're just like, man, I can't do another day in the water, right? Or man, I just don't want to talk to like another customer. I don't want to do another painting. I don't want to put down another stroke on canvas. I am just so, like, if I don't do this again for like another 5 months, I'm good, right? Then like 2 days pass and you're like, all right, where's my next canvas?
Yeah.
You know, like, all right, that maybe I just needed a break. Because I think sometimes you just need a vacation,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes you just need to stop for a little bit and just like refresh
But you'll
yourself.
never get away from it.
Never get away from it.
No,
It's
keeps
a
calling you.
lifelong commitment.
No
For
doubt.
sure. Just like being a Floridian is a lifelong commitment.
No doubt.
So I'm gonna have a little bit more.
I was about to say, you let your guests get a little empty.
Yeah,
there.
I'm sorry.
What kind of host is he?
I'm horrible. I didn't even let John drink today because I want
Yeah.
to make sure like everything is like all
Somebody has to be
recorded.
paying attention.
I
like
would
we
have
said
someone's
earlier.
gotta
stopped. I would have stopped
record.
recording.
Yeah, supposed to be like we're gonna sit here like we're gonna be talking like this whole time drinking rum and be like, oh yeah, we didn't record any of that.
Well, I got a question for you. Yeah, it's
Yes.
sort of how I got here started. Well, how did D.Friel get to where you are today? What would you consider was your big turn in the corner break that you got to get you to be a household name in the marine industry as far as an artist?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you asking that question because I'm just trying to get the sticker off. Being that, I run this show here, I'm always asking about the guests, and it's like you're the first person to ever ask about me. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. It has been a journey of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. As you well know. If I had to I could go back so far, and there are so many people that influenced this along the way and that have given us breaks and opportunities. And without those people, we wouldn't be here today.
No doubt.
Because you can say that you were the most talented artist in the world, and it probably wouldn't be worth a hill of beans if you didn't have the platform. There was, I'm going to give you a long-winded answer to this. There is an artist, Jean-Michel Basquiat. I'm not sure if you're familiar or not, but he was under the tutelage of Andy Warhol. And when I say tutelage, it wasn't anything strict. You're talking about the 1980s pop New York art scene that was really just loosey-goosey, doing drugs, partying, like the whole thing like that. But, if you want to say tutelage, we could say tutelage for lack of a better term. And there was a writer that wrote about him. Now, if you know Basquiat's work, you'll see it's very wild and crazy. And some people would say almost like children art-like. Mm-hmm. But if you really understand art and you look at it deeper than that, it's totally not. It's very good work. And for the time that it came out, it was groundbreaking. The art world recognized it. But there was a writer that wrote about him, and he said that, something to the effect of, we know Van Gogh because of Van Gogh's ear, right? For the most part. A lot of people, that's what they know. They know the story of Van Gogh cut off his ear. And he only sold one painting during his lifetime. He never had that platform really while he was alive. Now, he was within the circle of the famous artists of the time, but he was never well known until after his death. And that's where the whole cliche of artists don't get famous until they're dead, right? It's the Van Gogh story really is, why people say that, because plenty of people knew Picasso while he was alive, and he was very famous while he was alive. And he died in like 1973. Some people are shocked to find that out, that was actually that close to our time. So the point I'm trying to make is that, sometimes, this writer said about Jean-Michel Basquiat, and he said, you got to be careful sometimes because what you might be looking at Van Gogh's ear, right? Which means, like, even though that is such a wild off crazy thing of what art might be, right? You don't know, that might be the next best thing. Mm-hmm. And that's a crazy thing about art. But it's people that, if it wasn't for that writer, that maybe they may not have put Jean-Michel Basquiat into that forefront, right? And if it wasn't, they maybe Andy Warhol wouldn't have been like, oh, that's Van Gogh's ear. Bring him to me. And then, so it's those people that along the way that made that person, or at least gave them a platform. Mm-hmm. Now, I think everybody who makes it to a certain point in life, you don't make that make it to that point if you're not talented. All right. But not everyone who's talented makes it. And there are reasons why. And a lot of times this is because of relationships, right? So early on, when I was about 17 years old, I walked into an art gallery called the Wild Fish Collection right there at the Atlantic Bridge, right? Mary Allison Reed Blair owned it. And someone said to me, hey, there's a gallery that you can go through and you show some people your paintings. I'm able to hang you. I was a senior in high school. And they got such a kick out of that they basically like rubbed my hair and said, yeah, sure, throw it up on the wall. To me, it was the biggest deal ever.
Sure.
Right? To them, it was probably just like, oh, we got some wall space. Why not throw the kid up there, see if it sells? Well, the paintings did sell. But I'm also hanging right next to like Don Ray, and Stanley Meltzoff, right? And even some guy Harvey's and stuff like that.
You're in the starting lineup.
And I'm 17 years old, and I'm like, I've made it already. But it wasn't the truth. But you know what I mean? That's how I felt.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, it was huge. And so Mary Alice and Reed Blair, they put me on that platform, and they made me kind of realize that not just for painting fish, but being an artist professionally can happen, And if they would have told me, no, we're good, kid. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Maybe I would have kind of like not been so inspired to continue this. So maybe there's like a parent out there that's like telling the kid, no, you don't want to draw. Artists don't make a lot of money. You know what I mean? You just be an accountant, be something safe, right? Maybe that's not the good thing. So, there have been a lot of people along the ways that have helped this out. My family, my wife, obviously, but I think you got to look at the people that support you over the years, like in the Bernard Paul Husses, the families that bought your paintings.
Sure.
Every time. The Paul Harts, and I'm name dropping here because these are people that have supported this cause. The Frank Tropeppi's, the Tropepi family, that have really supported, this cause. George God's a good friend of mine. He supported this cause early on. You supported this cause early on. And I hate dropping names because I know I'm going to forget people. But there's people that, you question as an artist. You always doubt yourself, right? And there's people along the way that you feel like that person just bought that from me, and that they're well off to help out, and you get it, and sometimes, you know what I mean. So I guess I'm just kind of losing my way in this answer a little bit, but I just overall wanted to say that without the help of the people, because art is a very subjective thing, and it's not like a concrete, like this is what I'm bringing. It's just fishing too, like in media and entertainment, so without people there to support it, I mean, it would be nothing.
And then based on what I got out of that story you told me, had it not been for that shop putting your picture up,
yeah,
a little thing like that,
a little thing.
This way, when people will write me and say, I want to try fishing, I want to do that, you never come back with a negative type of response. You always give them the encouragement because, you were encouraged because they gave you the opportunity to hang your print. You said you were 17?
I was 17.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And had they not done that, who knows? Like you said, you could have taken another direction, but it just goes to show you the sensitivity of a young person coming up. Never tell them they can't do anything.
Yeah.
Give them, build them up and all that, and talk to them and give them certain ideas for them to think about too, but always make them feel good, because you might think that's just a minuscule little comment, but to them that could be the push.
Yeah.
That pushes them into something that really does well from their career. You don't realize how those little pushes, how big they could be in life.
Yeah, it's very true. Especially if you are a person of influence, then you have to have that awareness too, of the impact that you might be having. Like, you are obviously a person of influence, and I know you're well aware of your words. To when people come up to you and what you say to them, how they respond to them, and you have an understanding of that could be affecting their day, their month, their life. You know what I mean? Depending on the magnitude of their question, you know what I mean? There's a certain responsibility, I think, to respond appropriately to that.
And what you just told me, I'll give you how I learned that. Because growing up, I was a shy kid.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather would take me to Hialeah Speedway every Saturday night to watch the stock cars race. I was addicted to that too. And the only reason I didn't go into that was my grandfather wanted to get me going. And my dad, being a dentist, said, there's no way in the world. He told me, he said, you get yourself, if I hear you even drove one of those things in warm-ups, he goes, I'm going to break your legs before I have to sit and watch them broken in a car crash. that they were that anti-racing. So, which was good. That probably pushed me more into fishing in it. But Bobby Brack was the kingpin. Best late model modified racer come out of South Florida. He dominated that track. Now, you got to remember, I'm 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And after the races, my grandfather would take me into pits. And, let the traffic clear up. But then for a little kid, you're looking at those stock cars. You put your hand on the tires. They're all hot and sticky from running. This was mesmerizing stuff to me. Then we'd see Bobby Brack's race car, and he was standing there. And to me, this guy was larger than life. I said, oh, my God. And you'd look, and my grandfather would walk up to say a couple words to him, and he would always take the time to come over and talk to us. And I'd, your little kid, hey, good race, Bobby. You did good taking the lead, and he would talk to you. Mm. And I'm thinking, this is the biggest thing, going on. You go to another driver, they wouldn't give you the time of day. And so
I can't stand that.
No. And then every Saturday night, I would go in the pits and I would talk to him. And he would have a conversation with 8, 9, 10, 11, up to 17, all these years I went to the track. And I remember how that made me feel. So when I get an email from a viewer, I try to answer every single email I get because I remember how I felt when Bobby Brack took the time to talk to a little kid. And even though it's another pain in the neck email you got to go through, but whatever you answer that person or advice or fishing tips you give them, he might have that same feeling. Mm-hmm. And so that's what made me stick to what I'm doing because of a guy like him when you were such a young age.
Yeah.
Crazy as it sounds.
It matters.
It does.
It matters. I mean, it really does. I mean, I've had experiences like that, as well. I mean, we've talked about this show in the time that I took the cruise with the Miami Dolphins and how cool Mark Clayton was to me. Mm-hmm. I was 12 years old. And he could have very easily looked at, all right, cruise with the Miami Dolphins. I just got to do this. I'm contractually obligated or whatever the case may be, why he's there. But he really hung out with all the college kids, was so cool with the parents. Yep. I mean, and so a lot of the other players were too, but especially Mark Clayton. He was the coolest, man.
See, do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that from my whole life.
Yep.
I'd love to have him on the podcast one day. Hey, Mark, remember that time? It's probably more for me than for him. But yeah, no, but that stuff does definitely matter.
Sure.
Anytime you meet anyone from influence, it affects people's lives. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, it does. And then later on, I mean, again, these people are your customers too. So it's no different, I always like to say, than if you owned a hardware store. Mm-hmm. You want to sit and greet those customers at the front door, make them feel warmly welcome, and what can I do to help you? There are other people in our industry that don't take that kind of time. So it's almost like if you had that same hardware store and you're out front with a baseball bat to scare your customers away. It's these are your customers. They're the ones who are buying your sponsor's product. They're the ones who are watching you. They're the ones who are spending the $55 to come to the seminar series on a Saturday. So you need to take care of your customers and give them the time. It's only common business sense, which so many people don't have.
Yeah, it's so right. I mean, I get messages all the time from younger artists, mm-hmm. And asking for words of inspiration, seemingly. And you have to reciprocate that. You have to respond to them appropriately. And to be honest with you, it's my pleasure to.
Sure.
Because if you take the perspective of it's really kind of my privilege and honor that a kid's emailing me and wants my advice or my opinion or to share my experiences.
And he'll go around and show everybody, look at this email that I got from D.Friel. He'll tell 20 people, look at D.Friel. He got back to me. This is what he said. You'll never forget that.
Yeah, and it's meaningful.
Sure it is.
And you know what else is meaningful? You coming here today and sharing your time with us.
I'm enjoying. I'm on vacation. What a good way to start my vacation.
So what's left on your vacation? What are you going to do? You're probably going to fish.
No, I got to, what I call a vacation. You still have the work to do. I'm working on my saltwater sportsman column that I got to get in probably by Thursday. And then, working on the seminar series, mm-hmm. just fine tuning our course loads and all that. So a lot of work, but it's at home type of work in your desk. And then, of course, sneak out some days here and there to fish. But the grind of the pressure of getting the TV show is, like I said, we pushed that goal to get them all done by October, and we did, and it was a grind. And we were living more in that boat than I was at home. And my wife would joke with me like, you're just a visitor at this house, now these days. I said, but I got a goal. I said, we started to end in October so I could get, November, December off. And I said, well, I got to stick to those guns. We get it done. That's great. We got it done.
Yeah, well, enjoy these next 2 months. They're going to go quick.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Everything goes by faster these days, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, especially, in the studio, I'm constantly like, wow.
I know.
Some people are like, I can't wait till it's Friday. Can't wait till it's Friday. And when Thursday rolls around to me, I'm like, damn, it's Thursday. I haven't gotten this done yet, or I haven't. It's like, no, not yet. I can't have it be Thursday yet. I guess when you're running your own gig, you kind of look at things a little bit differently. But for sure, it definitely things are moving faster. And we mentioned Bernard Paulhus earlier. He said something influential to me about that. Today, I had made a comment, or not today, or last week, I made a comment to him about, can't wait till whatever's over. And he's like, well, don't wish time away.
That's true too.
Yeah, because at the end, that's all you have.
And that's when if you remember too, growing up, you used to hear your uncles and grandfathers say that. You would think, I'll get out of here. But then you don't realize that that's correct till you start getting up there.
Yeah. And I'm starting to look at things that way, in these days. So, what's next for the seminar? When does that start up?
First show is Saturday, January the 4th, I believe it is. We kick it off in Fort Myers.
Okay.
And then from there, we go to Hampton, Virginia. And from Hampton, Virginia, we go to Myrtle Beach. Then we go to Isla Mirada. And then we go to whatever the other cities. I got to look at the calendar.
No, that's all right. It's all right.
We go
flash the schedule up.
Atlantic City, New Jersey.
You can't forget about Atlantic City.
Can't wait to go back to Atlantic City.
Yep.
And
you ever roll the dice up there when you're up there?
No. Because people ask, when you go to casinos, don't you like to gamble? I said, I do. I said, I gamble on doing a TV show every year and a seminar series every year.
Yep. I tell you,
I got all the gambling I need.
I am not a gambler. Right?
Me either.
I am not a gambler. Like, I learned my lesson early on that, right? When I was young, I went to Vegas and I did great.
Yep.
Right? I did great in roulette and I came home with like a couple of grand. And I was in my mid-20s. Right? And then the next time I went to Vegas, I was married. Right? But it was on a work trip and she was home and I didn't do so great.
And
that was probably the best thing that ever happened.
You didn't
to me.
do so great. Like how not so great?
Well, I ended up losing.
Numbers out?
Yeah, I ended up losing maybe just less than a couple of grand, but it wasn't good.
No.
And at that point, I'm sharing a bank account with someone else, and it affected more than me.
Right.
That's terrible.
And I had a lot of apologizing to do, and it was one of those where you keep going back to the ATM, you think you can win it back.
Mm-mm.
And I tell you, one of the worst things that could have happened to me is me winning it back on that trip. And I'm glad it didn't, because to be honest with you, I never after that trip laid another dollar down on a casino table again.
Well, look at the casinos. They didn't get that big and elegant by losing and giving away money all the time, too.
Yep, and that's what she said to me. Oddly enough, that's funny you say that, because she goes, do you think that big building, is wanting to give you money? No, they're there to take your money. Why are you doing that?
I'd rather take that $20, that you would throw on a table, or $100, whatever you're thinking, and buy something with it. You could walk away with it in your hand.
Yep. No, I agree. So I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
No, if I want to thank you, it's an honor for me to be with a premier saltwater artist and having you call me to come in here. It's been my pleasure.
I'm going to cry that you just said that. You're going to make me cry. So, George Poveromo, you're my hero. Thank you very much for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And we're ending the show like this now. Your ego is not your amigo. And just do your best. Let God do the rest. Always remember to eat, drink, and be local. And no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we're always connected by water.
No doubt.
George Poveromo.
I'll have a sip of Papa's Polar
Papa's Polar. There you go. Cheers. Thank you.